Do you need to rebrand, repolish, repositioning? Rebranding is 25% of my business, and although I'm successful at it and it gives me and my clients a sense of accomplishment, by the time a rebranding is called for, it's mission critical. It's already too late to prevent the company from hemorrhaging massive amounts of time, energy, and money. The damage has already been done by branding themselves too small. Here's the thing. Strategies I use to help an existing company successfully rebrand are the exact same strategies I use to prevent new brands, new entrepreneurs from ever needing to rebrand in the future. Whether you've been in a business for a while or you're just now beginning to brand, it's time to lean in and listen close, because I'm here today to share 4 pivotal branding strategies that will save you an unbelievable amount of time, money, energy tomorrow. The 4 elements of rebranding and what new brands can do to avoid having to rebrand. Hey everyone, it's Canon Wing with Inspirationtomillions. As a naming expert and a brand manager, around 25% of my business has consisted of being called in to perform emergency rescue rebranding. In these cases, I'm like an EMT for brands. I get on the scene and correct a bunch of fundamental branding mistakes that have ultimately placed a company in critical condition. After 25 years of experience, I've looked really closely at what makes or breaks a brand. Today, I bring that experience directly to you with the 4 most vital elements for building or rebuilding a healthy and thriving brand. They are: number 1, name the emotion before you name the brand. Number 2, brand consistency is vital. Number 3, invest in intensive listening. Number 4, transform your brand story into a promise of a greater future and make certain all of your growth strategies keep that promise. We're going to dive right in, but first, just want to acknowledge that not every one of you, brave entrepreneurs, and make no mistake, every single one of you are brave. It takes great courage to believe in yourself, in your vision, in your efforts as an entrepreneur. But not everyone watching this episode here today is currently in the need of a rebrand. For those of you who are, I want to reassure you that although I know it isn't easy, it can be done. I know you can do it, and I'm here to help. There may be those of you that are just beginning to brand and to build your brand, and in which case, this information can actually help you prevent from ever finding yourself in the position of needing to rebrand. And some of you currently have a brand that is working well, and you're here because you want to keep it that way and get some strategies for making it great. Winston Churchill famously said, "Success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." So let's continue. Let's have the courage to continue together with hearts full of courage and the determination of the greatest entrepreneurs, and employ the 4 most vital elements for building as well as rebranding. Name the emotion before you name the brand. In only a few circumstances should an existing brand change its name entirely. You want to keep the customers you have, and so they need to still be able to recognize you. Only when your current name is misleading in regards to what goods or services your company provides, like Overstock.com, who had to resort to releasing so many ads that playfully acknowledged that their name was terrible and had nothing to do with what they offer. Or if your current name inspires emotion that isn't consistent with your brand's community culture. A recent example is the $1.9 billion movie franchise Men in Black. In the last installment of MIB International, the women characters of the story had to challenge the outdated thinking for the audience, who was largely female. These are the only 2 circumstances that a brand should consider changing their name entirely. And let me give you a couple of branding examples. Way back in 1893, a pharmacist from North Carolina wanted to invent the next great soda pop recipe. When he finally had his finished product, he knew he had something really special. Beaming with pride, he named it Brad's Drink, and it proceeded to sit on the shelves and collect way more dust than it did buyers. In 1898, just 5 years and $1,000 later, in a last-ditch effort to put his soda into circulation, Brad's Drink was renamed to Pepsi Cola. And as we all know, it went on to become one of the most recognizable brands across the globe. Why? He didn't change the ingredients. He just changed the name. Well, let me ask you this. What emotion does Brad's Drink inspire within you? What emotion would that name inspire in anyone other than Brad himself? This name wasn't about the customers, it was about Brad. And so he didn't reach anyone until he chose a name that inspired an emotional response in his ideal individuals. Pepsi is the name that inspired fun, playful energy. That's what Pepsi brand is all about. And that's what customers are buying when this product is flying off the shelf. When you name the emotion that your brand seeks to inspire in your ideal individuals, and then choose a name that calls that emotion into being, you've just been given your brand its first breath of life. Another great example to learn from is Weight Watchers. The idea of watching weight has become an outdated concept for today's health and beauty standards, which have dramatically shifted toward being healthy instead of just skinny. The name inspires the emotions of not being good enough, trapped in a body you have today, a sentence to having counting points for the rest of your life in a bid to feel worthy. This brand is widely known, and at one time it was extremely successful, but in recent years they walked the fine line to total ruin. They had a complete rebrand, their entire operation, and they chose the name WW. Here's what's wrong with it. Zero emotions inspired. Here's why they still might be okay. Because they changed their tagline to wellness that works. We can take away from this example is what you can't change an existing name entirely, you can still up-level your tagline and logo to reflect the emotion you wish your brand to inspire for your ideal individuals. The real bullseye for naming and renaming a brand is to aim for that emotion to be consistent throughout your entire brand culture. And it always begins with name, tagline, logo. Which brings us to brand consistency is vital. Effective change must come from within, as well as from the external. You don't raise the property value of a home by slapping on a new coat of paint, and you don't revitalize a brand by just changing the outward appearance. Once you have named that emotion your ideal individual wishes to buy from you, you have the blueprints for formulating and reformulating your brand's values and ethics. The degree to which your brand's values and ethics are being reflected to your customers is mirrored in how well your brand's values and ethics are being upheld by you. If the first question is, what emotion does my brand seek to inspire my customers? Then the second question is, how can my brand consistently inspire that emotion within my brand's culture, meaning your employees? Remember, these are people who interact directly with your customers, and they aren't inspired by your brand's values and ethics. They won't be able to carry that message to your customers consistently with everything they do. Whichever emotion your brand inspires, it isn't enough to just write it down as a company policy and then pay people to fake it. You must build a brand culture that authentically embodies and genuinely inspires your brand's values and ethics. Richard Branson once said, take care of your employees and your employees will take care of your business. Next, we have invest in intensive listening. I often say that every dollar a brand makes, all of your income will be from listening. And it's never too late or too early to start listening like your brand's longevity depends on it. In earnest, it truly does. When you are a new brand or an established brand, go deep into your research efforts to gather information from others about what they think about your brand and, most importantly, how your brand makes them feel. If you haven't launched yet, start listening by reading through reviews and customer engagements on social media with other brands in your industry. Established brands should do this too. Start listening to know your ideal audience best. The brand that knows them the best is the brand who wins brand loyalty. If you've already launched your brand, start internally. Lean into the honest truth about your employees' experience with being a part of your brand culture. Launch surveys to your existing customers and offer them exciting incentives for participating. Listen to everything you can get your ears on. There is gold in listening. Do a deep dive into intensive listening, and you will find yourself immersed in information about how to restore your brand. And finally, we have transform your brand story into the promise of a greater future and make all of your growth strategies keep that promise. What is the greater future that customers and employees alike most yearn to live into as a result of keeping your brand promise? The answer to this question is part of the gold you will mine from your intensive listening. And it's easier than you think. When you start a conversation with the intention to deeply listen, you will realize people are telling you everything. Customers are giving you invaluable insight into how to grow your brand. If it's the dismissing of their complaints or stories as anything other than gold that stops brand growth, ruins brand consistency, and breaks your brand's promise. Start with the emotion that your brand seeks to inspire, and then meet your community where they are today, in need of your brand's inspiration. Make the beginning of your brand story meet them where they are, at the beginning of their journey. And then use your brand story to help them imagine themselves as the hero of their own story, a story that ends with them strutting across the finish line with your brand, having helped them reach the greater future your brand promised. If you want a more detailed tutorial on how to nail your brand's inspiration story, I highly recommend you watch my masterclass on the subject. It will be a great tool for you to really lock this down finally and for all. It's a very important element for revitalizing your brand. Once you know the greater future is that your brand is promising, make all of your growth strategies going forward revolve dutifully around keeping that promise. Now that you have the 4 elements of rebranding, you can start at number 1 and begin brainstorming to name your brand's emotion. That's the first step, and it will carry you through every element for building and rebuilding your brand. So let's recap the 4 elements. They are: name the emotion before you name the brand. Brand consistency is vital. Real change comes from within as well as from without. 3, invest into intensive listening. And 4, transform your brand story into the promise of a greater future. And your entire community can then make certain all of your growth strategies revolve around keeping that promise. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so proud to be amongst the community of innovators, open-minded thinkers, risk takers, and brave go-getters. If you have any questions, leave them for me in the comments below and I will answer them. Whether you're rebranding, brand building, or just starting out, the best advice I could give to you to see your dreams come to fruition without burning yourself out is simple. Love what you do and love how you do it. Thanks for watching. Don't miss out on a single thing. Subscribe below. And here's something else I think you'll love.